Hello everyone and welcome back to yet another series from my channel Interactive Education, and today we'll be beginning the history chapter in the class 10 essay 2 board examination portion, which is nationalism in India. So nationalism in India. This is a compulsory chapter of the course, unlike the other two chapters, which are nationalism in Indochina and nationalism in Europe, out of which you need to choose one. But nationalism in India is the compulsory chapter in the course. Now, nationalism in India is basically a chapter which tends to explain how nationalistic sentiment began to grow in India from the First World War, that is almost very close to Mahatma Gandhi's arrival in India, to the civil disobedience movement. So basically, from this time range of the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi till the civil disobedience movement, how the nationalistic sentiment grew in the country is what we are going to study in this chapter. This chapter should not be confused by or with the freedom struggle. This chapter does not focus on how the freedom struggle started. It basically or went on. It basically explains, tries to stress on the fact or on the way in which nationalism, nationalistic sentiment, and belonging to India was developed amongst the Indian citizens. So when we are teaching this chapter or when we are studying this chapter, we should keep in mind that this chapter is not only like from examination point of view, but this chapter is something which we need to link to so that we can link to our roots, to our nation, and try to understand how the love for our country developed amongst people, right? So that's a basic overview of nationalism in India, right? So we're going to start with the first unit of this chapter, that is the First World War, Khilafat, and non-cooperation movement, or you can just say non-cooperation. Okay, so this is the name of the first unit of this chapter. Okay, so you know that the First World War began in around 1914, and at that point Britain was under turmoil because again Britain was at war. So Britain needed facilities, Britain needed funds, Britain needed arms, Britain needed supply so as to run the war, right? So basically Britain made some changes to India. It brought about some changes in India which brought about some social and political situations. It brought about a new social and political landscape in India. So let us look at these facts, right? Due to the war, what things came about in India which created this new social and political situation. So in the war, during the First World War, the British government brought some changes in Indian administration. Okay, so let us have a look at what those were, right? So during the war, the British government decided to increase defense expenditure. So the British government increased defense expenditure, right? Because they needed more money to be invested in defense and hence they increased the defense expenditure. Now, how did this have an effect on India? Well, to meet this defense expenditure, the British government had to increase taxes, right? So to meet this expenditure, it increased taxes plus it imposed custom duties. It imposed custom duties. So when you're learning points, right, it's better to learn it in this flowchart form. So increased defense expenditure, which was compensated by an increase in taxes and an imposition of custom duties. So basically they increased taxes so that they could get money from people and they could use it in defense. Plus for more money, they imposed even custom duties on the people, right? The second thing which came as a change, right, was forced recruitment. Forced recruitment. My God, my spellings. Forced recruitment. So the British government went into rural areas of India and it forcefully recruited youngsters, forcefully recruited people into the army, because obviously it's at war, so they need more people, and etc. etc. So there was forced recruitment in the army. Again, that was another problem. Now, these two are main administrative changes which came about, right? Third thing which you can include is that there was an increase in prices. Okay, so there was an increase in prices. Since there was increase in prices, again, people began to turn hostile. There was problems, there was turmoil, there was uneasiness, there was extreme hardship amongst the people. Because again, increase in prices, less wages, poverty, again, all this came to the same cyclic problem, right? So again, because of these three problems, can you see that how many problems because of this one war the Indian people had to face? And this created a new social and political situation. That is a sense of hostility against the British administration, right? One more thing you can include is that there was crop failure. There was crop failure and influenza epidemic. So there was an influenza epidemic and there was crop failure. Again, this had caused people to, lose money, to go into poverty, to go into turmoil. And with this, you have increased prices as well. You are undergoing forced recruitment, and there's increase in defense expenditure, which has led to an increase in taxes. Well, all this led to a serious anti-incumbency, a hatred against the British government amongst the Indian people, right? So these are the social and political changes, or the social and political transformations which took place in India due to the First World War, right? The basic outcome of all of this was a hostility against the British government. Okay, so this was the ultimate outcome of the implementation of all these great changes and transformations, right? So I hope you're absolutely clear with what happened during the First World War and how it impacted India specifically. Now let us move on to the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi, that is, arrival of Gandhi. And the idea of Satyagraha. We're going to discuss both of these things, right? So Mahatma Gandhi came to India. Now Mahatma Gandhi, that is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, a great leader, the pioneer leader of our freedom struggle. Mahatma Gandhi came to India in January 1915. Okay, came to India. Okay, and where did he come from? He came from South Africa, where he had led a very successful campaign, a very successful struggle against the racial system of discrimination there, especially against Indians and the local black communities. So in 1915, he came back to India, right? And when he came back to India, he brought with him the idea of Satyagraha. Okay. Now, if you are a Hindi student, you can easily, break this. Satya means truth and agraha means request. So, the word Satyagraha means request for the truth or truthful request. So basically, the idea of Satyagraha emphasized on the truth, the importance of the truth, right? And it emphasized on the idea, on the need, emphasized on need of truth and its discovery. So it emphasized on the importance of the truth and the need to search for the truth, to discover the truth. So that's one thing, right? That's what it emphasized on. Another thing which Satyagraha emphasized on was non-violent transformation of the enemy's mind. Of the enemy's perspective. right? So he believed, Satyagraha believed that if the cause of the person was true, then through non-violent methods, the enemy could be won over. And it emphasized on the fact that one need not use force to make the enemy accept the truth, force the enemy to accept the truth. But he needs to be encouraged, he needs to be transformed in such a way that he is able to see the truth himself, right? So that's the idea of Satyagraha. You call it the idea of Satyagraha, or you can say the philosophy behind Satyagraha. All right, I hope that's absolutely clear, right? So that's Satyagraha. Now, why was Satyagraha so important, and how did Mahatma Gandhi, bring about and prove the success of Satyagraha? Well, when Mahatma Gandhi came to India, he did certain experiments in various places across the country, which are called experiments of Satyagraha. And even Mahatma Gandhi has written his biography, My Experiments with Truth, in which he has tried to explain how he used the weapon of Satyagraha to achieve many things in life, right? So that's one different topic. But anyway, he came to India and he did a few experiments with Satyagraha. Now, these experiments came to be huge successes, and their news spread all across the country. So when their news spread all across the country, people everywhere got to know about this idea of Satyagraha and got to know about Mahatma Gandhi, about this new figure who had come into the country and who could liberate them from the oppressive British rule. So what were these experiments exactly? The first experiment Mahatma Gandhi did was in 1916, 1 year after his arrival, in the Champaran district of Bihar. Champaran district of Bihar. Now this was a struggle. So he led a struggle with the indigo farmers. Okay, with the indigo farmers against the oppressive plantation system. The oppressive plantation system. So there was an oppressive plantation system. They were forced to cultivate against their needs. Okay, and they were really, really tortured. So Mahatma Gandhi went to the Champaran district of Bihar in 1916 and he led a struggle called the Champaran Satyagraha with the indigo farmers against this oppressive plantation system. Again, it was a huge success, right? The second experiment that Mahatma Gandhi did was in the next year, that is in 1917, in the Khed district of Gujarat. Khed district of Gujarat. Okay, the Khed district. Now, in the Khed district of Gujarat, Mahatma Gandhi led his second Satyagraha experiment, where he led a struggle for the peasants to support the peasants, right? Now they were really, really tortured during that time. There was crop failure, there was epidemic, and yet the peasants were being forced to pay high amounts of money to the British administration as revenue. Even though there was even though they knew that there was extreme crop failure, there was an influenza epidemic, there was plague, and the people were in turmoil. So Mahatma Gandhi came with the peasants and he led the struggle in the Khed district, that is called the Khed Satyagraha, to support the peasants and to make their voice heard to the government, to make them understand that again they cannot pay the revenue. At that time there were problems. Again, this was too a success, right? Now we come to the third one, which we are going to discuss. We're going to discuss only three, so this is the last one. In 1918, he went to Ahmedabad, and in Ahmedabad, he led a struggle with the cotton mill workers. Okay, so with the cotton mill workers, Mahatma Gandhi led a struggle They were being tortured. They had bad working times, they were not given rights. So for all of this, Mahatma Gandhi led a struggle against the British administration, against the Jagirdars, the landlords, and the masters. And again, this too, to some extent, was a success. So you can see Mahatma Gandhi performed his first three experiments in India after he came with Satyagraha, that is 1916, 1917, and 1918, all three of which were very good successes. And what role did they play? They helped spread the idea of Mahatma Gandhi, that is revolving around Satyagraha and non-violence, all across the country, and made him a nationwide figure. Right? So that's absolutely clear. Till now, we've discussed Mahatma Gandhi's experiments with Satyagraha. In the next video, we'll continue this unit and we'll start off with the Rowlatt Act. Thank you very much.